There's something disarming about waking up somewhere that doesn't expect anything from you. No schedule, no alarm clock, no ancient axis waiting to be decoded. Just the hum of a fan and the soft weight of humidity, and the waves already in motion before you've even opened your eyes. We walk from the room towards the beach slowly, not because we're tired, but because urgency doesn't belong here on Koh Rong. The path is sandy and uneven. Bougainvillea hangs lazily over the walkway, and the air feels thicker than Siem Reap, heavier, but in a comforting way, like being wrapped instead of watched. The temples ask for posture, but the ocean asks for surrender, and that's a different kind of power. From above, the island looks almost imaginary. Water laid in gradients, mint to turquoise to deep cobalt. Sand so pale it feels reflective. It's impossible not to exhale when you see it from this angle. After days of stone and precision, this feels unstructured, untamed, wild. But if you look longer and really look, there's a pattern here too. Waves arrive in rhythm, and the shoreline curves with mathematical elegance. The tide pulls back with the exact timing. Nature doesn't lack geometry. It just doesn't carve it into the walls. The churning of the ocean of milk began in water, not architecture. Before there were temples mapping the universe, there was the universe itself, fluid, unstable, and full of potential. That's what this feels like. Potential, without containment. The body responds before the mind does. Your shoulders lower, your jaw unclenches, and your breath drops deeper without instruction. The ocean doesn't need to explain itself. It just moves. And then there are beach puppies. Tiny, sun-warmed, fearless. They tumble through the sand like they've discovered something ancient and urgent. And it turns out it's just foam. They chase waves they can't outrun, and they bark at the water that will never answer back. And somehow, it's all perfect. There's no reverence, no careful spiritual framing, just joy. There's something sacred about that too. After so much meaning and so much symbolism and so much intention, watching a puppy dig a hole with absolute conviction feels like revelation. Maybe embodiment is that simple. Maybe sometimes it's just paws in the sand. As we drift back into the shade and time starts to stretch in strange ways here, you look at the clock and it feels irrelevant. The body begins to understand something that the mind resists, that not every moment needs to produce something. Some moments are allowed to exist without purpose. That feels radical. The tuk-tuk rattles along sandy roads, palms flicker overhead like film frames. Laundry moves in the wind, and children wave without expectation. There's dust in the air, music somewhere in the distance. Island life isn't curated, it's layered. The churning wasn't clean either. It was friction, it was tension, it was effort. But here, the effort is softer. You don't feel pulled forward, you feel carried. Soksan Pier stretches outward like a line drawn carefully into open water. Wood meeting tide, people walking without urgency, boats rocking gently, not anchored rigidly, just floating within their limits. Standing there, you feel how temporary everything is. The pier will weather, the boats will rot and be rebuilt. The shoreline will shift again. Impermanence doesn't feel threatening here. It just feels natural. The temples taught us endurance, and the ocean teaches us adaptability. Both are forms of intelligence. The difference is pace. Stone insists, water negotiates. One of the things I've come to love most about Koh Rong isn't just the water, it's the people. Everywhere we went, we were met with smiles. Not the kind that feel rehearsed or expected, the kind that simply say, "You're here, welcome." You feel it at the pier, you feel it at the hotel. Fishermen preparing their boats, locals greeting one another as they pass, children waving without expecting anything in return. Life here seems to move with the tide, not rushed, not idle, but present. Maybe that's the part of what islands teach. When you're surrounded by water, you learn that everything arrives in its own time. Boats, people, storms, opportunities. There's no forcing the sea, only learning how to meet it. Standing here, watching the tide move beneath the dock, it feels like another quiet lesson. Not every sacred place is marked by stone towers or ancient carvings. Sometimes it's simply a smile from a stranger. Koh Touch hums louder. Backpackers weaving between restaurants and bright signs compromising cocktails and fire shows. Music pulsing from speakers that probably shouldn't survive this humidity. It's chaotic in a way that's almost charming. The nectar in the myth didn't belong to one side. Everybody wanted it. And when something precious appears, it gets commercialized. I guess that's human. Walking through Koh Touch, you realize paradise is not neutral. It reflects whoever is standing inside of it. For some, it's a party. For others, it's solitude. For some, it's escape. And others, it's confrontation. The ocean doesn't discriminate. It holds everybody in the same way. That's the lesson here. Discernment. You can move through the noise and still choose the quiet. You can stand in music and still hear your own rhythm. We wander without a map or a mission, and sand sticks to our ankles and grilled seafood drifts through the air. Shops selling woven bags and sun-bleached bracelets. It's imperfect. It's plastic chairs and bright umbrellas, salt in your hair that refuses to cooperate. And maybe perfection is never the point. The temples were precision. This is texture. The churning produced both poison and nectar. But what stays with you isn't always a grand revelation. Sometimes it's the small calibrations. How your body walks differently now. How you pause before reacting. How you breathe deeper without trying. Embodiment isn't dramatic, it's subtle. It's noticing that you don't need to extract meaning from every experience. Sometimes just being present is enough. Maybe that's why places like Koh Touch matter. Not because they're untouched, because they're lived in. Travel has a way of convincing us that the most meaningful places are the quiet ones. The hidden temples, the empty beaches, the moments where no one else is around. But life rarely looks like that. Most of our lives are spent surrounded by people. Conversation, music, choices, movement. Maybe the real practice isn't finding silence. Maybe it's learning how to carry stillness into places that are not quiet. As we wander through Koh Touch, that feels surprisingly possible. The laughter still spills out of restaurants and families share long lunches by the seas. Travelers swapping stories from places they'll probably never visit again. Children running barefoot across the sand as if the beach belongs to everyone. There's something deeply human about it. No one seems to be performing. Everyone is simply participating in the same day. I think that's one of the biggest gifts of islands. They remind you how little you actually need. A place to swim, something good to eat, people to share it with, and enough time to watch the light change. For all of our conversations about sacred geometry, ancient cosmology, and temples built to mirror the universe, there is another kind of wisdom here. One that doesn't need stone, one that doesn't need centuries. It's the wisdom of an ordinary life lived well, eating slowly, walking without a destination, looking up instead of down, allowing yourself to notice the color of the water instead of the time on your phone. It's astonishing how quickly those small choices begin to change the way you feel. Maybe that's because attention is its own kind of devotion. What we consistently pay attention to quietly becomes the shape of our lives. Walking through Koh Touch, I'm reminded that the sacred was never meant to be confirmed in temples. If the lessons we learned at Angkor only worked inside ancient walls, they wouldn't be much to use. The real question is whether they still matter here, among cafes and beach bars, among music and laughter, among ordinary people living ordinary days. I think they do. Maybe even more than we realize, because it's easy to connect in a place built for reflection. It's much harder and much more meaningful to carry that same awareness into everyday life. Maybe that's been the journey all along. Not simply finding sacred places, but learning to become someone who can recognize the sacred wherever they happen to be. By the time we return, the light has softened. Dinner tastes incredible when you're next to the water. Conversations stretch without pressure, and the puppies are slower now, curled into themselves in sand, clinging to their fur. There's something cyclical about it. Morning to evening, low tide to high tide. The day doesn't climax, it settles. And that settling feeling feels important. The churning of the ocean milk wasn't only about what emerged. It's about what was endured in the process, what remained steady after friction, what adapted instead of broke. Koh Rong doesn't change you loudly. It rounds you. It smooths your sharp edges, carved by structure and expectations. You begin to realize something quiet. Power doesn't always need architecture. It doesn't always need hierarchy. Sometimes it's just tide. Sometimes it's just repetition. Sometimes it's just the body remembering how to be inside itself. Tomorrow, the story moves again, but tonight, we rest inside the ocean. If this journey is resonating with you, if you're feeling the rhythm of it, like and subscribe. There's only one more chapter waiting, and the water hasn't finished teaching us yet.